Hey guys, it's Rachel and this is Auxhart Gardening. Today is our week 16 garden tour. That means we've been following the garden for 4 whole months now. Wow. I know you guys are here to see the garden and not me, so we'll get right into it. Starting as we always do with the carrot bed. You can see my sprouts are starting to really bush out. I think these are moving so much faster than the carrots did when I planted them in the, I guess it was mid-winter when I planted them to get ready for the spring garden. You can see they're a little sparsely planted though. What I did to plant these, I tried a different method. I mixed the seeds with a little bit of leftover potting soil that I had and tried to spread that evenly over the surface here. But as you can see, there was quite a clumping near the middle and almost nothing really made it to the edges here. Got bare patches. So that's a lesson learned. Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe the method would work. I've heard some people use sand for this. So maybe that's something I'll have to try. Wow, look at those tomatoes. They are way up past the tops of my poles now. And I'm starting to realize I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I don't know if I have the heart to top them because I haven't really harvested my first tomato yet. Although, can you see it? Can you see it right there? Let's go look at it. This is my first ripe tomato. I haven't picked it yet because I wanted to show you guys. But like, wow, I'm so excited for this. This is an Amish paste tomato and I've been watching it for what feels like forever. And it's the first one to ripen. It's way ahead of the others. Like, I think it'll be another week until we start seeing more of these ones that are ripening. But you can see there's fruit setting everywhere. We have some Rebecca Allens starting to set down here. I have been picking from the orange hats. They look still really quite sad, but I'm doing an aspirin spray on them today, as one of you suggested. I was planning on doing that anyway for the big tomatoes to kind of help with the flavor of the tomatoes. If you don't know, an aspirin spray supposedly mimics the signal that a plant would get if it was stressed under attack. And so it starts going into survival mode and releasing chemicals that would help it fight off an attack, right? But a lot of these things actually just end up making our fruit taste better. And so that little bit of stress that we give the plant gives us tastier fruit in the end. And it can also prepare your plant for like an actual pest infestation if one was to come, because it's already been a little stressed out and hardened up and like ready to handle that. Just the fruits everywhere. All these little babies. We've got, of course, our pepper babies. Let's go look at this. So this is the first Buena Mulata pepper that had set, and you can see it starting to turn a little brown. And I think that's normal. I think it'll go through brown before it gets to red, which means fully ripe. And y'all have been mentioning to me that these are pretty good at every stage of their development, and that I'll have to try them at all stages. So I'll be sure to do that. But I want to watch one go through all the way to ripeness first, so I just know what to look for. Basils are looking good. This one's a sweet basil. We've got my lettuce leaf basil over here, and of course the purple basil that is purple back in there. Now, I haven't really seen peppers setting on my sweet pepper plants yet. You can see they're looking all right. This one actually had a pepper set on it that fell off for no particular reason. It almost looked like it was cut off. The break was so clean. Hard to say what really happened. Probably some animal came through here. But this one, the Zulu, is looking really good. You can see all those little flower buds coming on. We come over here. We've got my single seed challenge tomato, purple Russian. We're still waiting on this fruit to ripen up, and he's putting on more fruit further up. This is one that was really shaded out by the radish jungle that was here. And you can see all of these tomatoes, like in this area that were shaded out, are very quickly catching up to the tomatoes over here. I mean, these are obviously still bigger and further along, but with the heat of the summer, everything really is catching up quite well. We've got the turnips that have gone to seed here. You can see there's fewer flowers on them now. They're still putting on flowers, but mostly it's pods at this point. These are much, much smaller and thinner and longer than the radish pods that I had earlier. These are not nearly as delicious as eating the radish pods. So I'll let these stay until they dry up and save the seeds from that. And hopefully those will be ready in time to get the fall garden started. Let's come around to the back here. Take a look at some of the Cherokee purples. I love these. These are so dark green. It's very recognizable compared to the other tomatoes that I'm growing this year. And these have actually been like the most genetically weird plants that I've had. So like in terms of tomatoes, generally you see a single stalk growing up, and then it'll have the leaf branches coming off at that 90-degree angle. And you can see here where I cut off what was a sucker coming up at a 45-degree angle, kind of in the crook of where that leaf would be. And that's really normal. But some of the stuff that I'm seeing like on some of these, I've cut them off now, so I'm not sure if I could find, but kind of the stuff I'm seeing is like at the ends of normal leafy branches, there'll be a random sucker coming out and trying to put fruit on it. I've had fruiting branches start growing, like here, fruiting branch that's starting to grow a sucker out of the tip of that. I haven't seen that on any of my other varieties. And these ones tend to be like the smallest so far of all of my tomatoes. I'm not sure if that's just the variety or the fact that it was here in the back, but they are coming along slowly but surely. So many baby tomatoes. We've got more Amish pastes back here. I think these nice, beautiful, perfectly round ones are my mortgage lifters. Let's take a look at a Hungarian heart, if I can find one. I think they're gonna be so beautiful. Here's one. If you can see through the foliage, this one is going to be like a nice heart shape when it's done. Oh, that's gonna be so nice, so gorgeous. So excited for all of these tomatoes. I'm gonna turn you around now to the cover crops that I planted on this hill. You can see a lot of the weeds that would normally grow are starting to take off, but some of the stuff I planted is taking off too. You can see all the little basils, basil. There's some purple basils, purple lettuce leaf. I think that might be a dill coming up. Let's see what else. There are some marigolds hanging out in here. We've got some bush bean plants that I threw in just to see what would happen. I've got some nasturtiums right here. And I think I saw a bee balm plant earlier. Can't seem to find where the sprout is. But hopefully in like another month we'll start seeing some pretty flowers back in here in the cover crop section. There we go. The very first ripe tomato of 2020. I mean, not the first, but the first big one. Also, if we go beyond the bed over here, something I haven't shown you guys, I actually did plant a rosemary bush over here a while back. It was a rosemary plant from a store. Because my other rosemary bush that I had last year got full of disease and I could not save it. So I put a new one here. I figured it would probably need the room, but I haven't really been taking good care of it because you can see it's just kind of crowded by these cute little ferns that I have not had the heart to pull up yet because they're so cute, so fluffy. But also back here I have a few wild tomatoes. Well, wild, volunteer, I guess. There was a cherry tomato plant in the bed last year, and I definitely threw a lot of overripe tomatoes back in this area. So there's one here. There is one back in there, and there's another one way back in there. And you can see this specific plant in front of us is starting to set little baby fruits. That does look like a cherry tomato vine, so maybe we'll get some volunteer cherry tomatoes this year. That'd be pretty cool. Alrighty, let's take a look at these trellises. You can see stuff is growing pretty well. It looks a little floppy because it's about the middle of the day right now. But you can see I've got noodle beans coming on. Noodle bean there. This is a 1500-year-old cave bean. I've got my oldest one here that's starting to turn a little yellow. I'm waiting for these to dry on the vines so that I can shell them. Here's another noodle bean coming on right here, right next to the Malabar spinach, which is looking pretty lush. It's starting its long climb up the trellis, and I think now it's starting to really take off. Here on the other side of the trellis, I've got another red Chinese noodle bean right there. That one's going to be ready to be picked very soon. And this is, I think, a 1500-year-old cave bean that is climbing. But it has not put on any flowers yet, which is a little strange. But I think that the second flush of beans is coming on. We'll see some more of that from the bush beans in the yard. But the beans out here on the trellis have been a little slow getting started. And I think it's because that they're in containers. I think maybe next year I'll put some work into actually amending this dry red clay that you see and making it growable to put beans in the ground. I think they'll do a lot better if I give them that chance. And then of course we have this little raised bed. My spaghetti squash are doing really well. So if you remember, I had to direct seed these even though I had started plants because the started plants failed miserably, and you can kind of see the remnants of that in this pumpkin. I probably should have just direct seeded those again the same time I did the spaghetti squash. You can see even though this was direct seeded and that was transplanted after like having 3 weeks of growth prior, this obviously looks a lot better and bigger and healthier than this little transplanted pumpkin. So I'll be happy if I get anything from that plant this year. But as always, the sage looks gorgeous. It's just getting bigger and bigger. I am gonna struggle to do stuff with all of it coming up, and I'll probably prune it back before winter comes. Let's take a look at this whole jungle back here. I've moved around a few things. I put the herbs kind of more front and center because right over here is my porch. And I wanted to make it easier on myself to come out here and get these if I needed some for dinner. They look, again, sad because it's been hot lately. They're in these little pots, and for the most part I've been letting the afternoon showers water them because I'm a little bit of a lazy gardener, and everything seems to be doing alright because of that. I've got some fruit setting on the Amish paste that I've got back here. Even little baby one, the ones that almost died. Look at that, setting a fruit. I've got stevia here. I actually recently, what is the word for it? I guess distilled? I don't know about distilled, but I made stevia extract. I extracted the stevia into vodka and then condensed it and boiled the alcohol out to make a sweet extract to use in my coffee. More orange hats here. So these ones, I've got a question for you guys. So the plants look sad, and then the fruit has little brown spots on it, and I can't find anything online that says that that's unsafe to eat, and I think it would be, but I just want to double check with anybody who knows better than I do whether or not those are actually safe to eat. So if we take a step back and look at these tomatillos, they have set a few more fruits than previously, but considering all the flowers that I'm seeing on them, they're not setting a very large percentage of them. And I'm not sure why, because I've seen plenty of pollinators back here. Maybe it's just not the right conditions for these tomatillos. I did have one come ripe, and I tasted it, and I'll be honest guys, I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to taste like, but it kind of tasted like sweaty socks. I don't know, maybe something to do with the nutrition of them or the weather is making them not taste so great. Or maybe that's how they're supposed to taste. I do not know. I'm growing these because my mom can't have tomatoes, and I really wanted to make her some salsa that she'd be able to eat, and I figured tomatillos would be a good way to do that. Now the peppers, however, look pretty amazing. My beautiful jigsaw pepper is setting its very first little baby purple pepper. It's so cute, and it's such a beautiful plant. I just can't get over this variegation. Like, now I kind of understand why people are so in love with variegated plants. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And if we turn and look at all these other peppers, look how healthy they are. You can kind of see peppers setting. Over here we have some jalapenos, and I think I might have a slug issue with this one, because if you look, every single one has like this little dent in the top, which kind of looks like what I've been told is a slug bite. Like, they would crawl up down here and then start chomping right there at the top where they can reach. I'm not sure though. Like, if you know for sure what that is, let me know. I'm just guessing. But I saw that last year and I was like so disappointed that so many of my peppers just had gotten eaten a little bit. The cayennes, man, those are looking fantastic. These are much bigger than the cayennes that I had last year. It must be a different variety. Last year I got them at just Lowe's. I got a plant that was started. And this year I started from seed from Baker Creek. So it's entirely possible that it's a larger variety. We've got, oh, back here, this large Anaheim pepper. Look at that. I'm hoping that this will be ready very soon. I can't wait to try it. I've never had it before. Right, so let's talk bush beans. I've got my dragon tongues here. Those are black beans, and then behind them are the ones I can never pronounce that look kind of like dragon tongues, except they have pink streaks on them. And so none of the beans have looked all that great. The dragon tongue, they've started putting on these pods that are, they look fine, right? But then they're like completely flat. It's got a few of these, and I'm not really sure why that's happening. I thought that something was wrong with them. But if you'll notice, around here, there's some like really good, healthy looking, fresh growth right around there. And it kind of looks like they're making another push to come back and try and make some more beans, which is encouraging. And it's more than I can say for these black beans, although that is kind of what I expected of them. I never picked the first flush, and I've been waiting for them to dry out so that I can shell them. And with beans, if you don't pick the first flush, then the plant assumes it's done and eventually dies off. Whereas if you do pick the first flush, the plant realizes that it did not succeed in reproducing, starts putting on new growth and trying again. So hopefully I'll see these beans start looking a little bit healthier in the weeks to come. I am now completely overrun by squash, and I think it might have been last week I was talking about how healthy the leaves looked, and I spoke too soon, because now I'm starting to see the very first signs of powdery mildew coming on, which is a little discouraging given the fact that I haven't seen any actual flowers on these plants. I think I'm seeing the starts of flowers down in here somewhere. They're so hard to find because they're really little right now. But I think I'm starting to get flowers, and maybe I'll start setting some fruits on this pumpkin, as well as the cucumbers. I feel like I'm quite behind on my cucumbers compared to other people in my zone. And that's probably because of this spot where I grew them. They're behind because it's a little shady. And while they technically have enough time in the growing season, we can just hope that the powdery mildew doesn't get to them before I get my fruits. Also, this is what I'm dealing with my strawberries. First of all, yum, doesn't that look great? But also, I'm pretty sure that there's a bird's nest in there, or was a bird's nest. It It's not looking great for these strawberries. I think I'll definitely have to transplant them for next year. So I saw this and I had like a mini heart attack till I realized that it was not alive. It is definitely cicada season. And that is garden tour week 16, month 4 now. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing everything. I think next week or maybe the week after we're going to start harvesting a lot of tomatoes. So stay tuned for those harvest tours. And that's really all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please do like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. Share with your friends. And leave your new gardener questions below. I'm starting a new series where I'm talking about all of the absolute basic things that new gardeners need to know. So if you have questions, leave them below and maybe I'll make a video about it. Happy gardening, guys!